Hey, Tommy and Eddie here to talk to you about something really great. Palm Sunday.
Yeah, that's the Sunday that we paint our palms purple to commemorate King Saul talking with that palm reader lady. Then we wave them in the air.
No, it's not.
Yes, it is.
No, it's
yes,
not.
it is.
No.
What Bible do you read?
Palm Sunday commemorates the triumphal entry of Jesus into Jerusalem. Now picture this. Jesus rode in on a donkey while the crowds put their cloaks and palm branches all over the ground, shouting, "Hosanna to the Son of David."
That's what I said. That's what I meant.
Okay, now picture this. Jesus' popularity was going viral. I mean, he just raised Lazarus from the dead in the same community just a few days earlier.
Wait, post-dead Lazarus was maybe at the very first Palm Sunday?
Yeah, probably.
That's so cool. I bet if he was there, he was probably like, "And you're a thriller, Jesus. You raised me from the dead when you said, get up, get up, get up, oh!"
Now, to complete all this, Jesus needed a donkey. Now, you'd think that a king or a prince would ride in on a horse, but not Jesus. He knew the message that he wanted to send. You see, a donkey represents peace. Anybody riding a donkey represented peaceful intentions.
Yeah, it says right here in Matthew 21, it says that Jesus sent two of his disciples to get him a donkey.
Yeah.
Hey, I wonder which two he sent.
Maybe Thomas.
I doubt it. I bet he sent Andrew. Andrew would totally do that. And probably Tony. I bet he said Andrew and Tony.
Tony's not a disciple.
Oh, sorry. Tony is.
Still not a disciple. What translation of the Bible do you read? Jesus needed a donkey, so he asked two disciples to go get him a donkey. He told them they would find one in town, tied there next to a colt.
Yeah. And then he says, "Untie them and bring them to me. And if somebody asks you about it, you tell them the Lord needs them?" Jeez.
Yeah, what?
Well, Jesus told his disciples to go steal a donkey for him.
What Bible do you read? It doesn't say that at all.
I can't figure this out. I mean, Jesus, he changed water into wine. Cool. He fed the 4,000.
He fed the 5,000.
What?
He fed the 5,000.
Doesn't matter.
It does matter, not the 4th. It's the 5,000. We're splitting hairs.
Jesus fed a large group of people, and that's cool. He healed people with leprosy. He raises Lazarus from the dead, and then boom, he's like, "Hey guys, go steal me a donkey." I'm just saying, I don't think that's very WWJD.
The significance of Jesus riding in on a donkey, which he did not steal, was to fulfill the prophecy that is found in Zechariah 9:9.
Yeah, but
And the king riding in on a lowly donkey with his weight paid with palm branches. The palm branches symbolize triumph or victory.
the what?
The palm branches.
The bread.
Palm branches, Palm Sunday.
I thought it was the palm. They should call it Branch Sunday because that's confusing. We all have palms with us all the time. I feel bad. I'm sorry, Palm Sunday.
Palm Sunday is a time for us to prepare our hearts for the agony of his passion and the joy of his resurrection. So this week, let's cover the road to the cross with our hearts, our souls, and our minds as we reflect on the final week of Jesus' life.
And let's celebrate in anticipation the return of the King of Kings.
I like that explanation of Palm Sunday. Those guys usually do a little bit better than I can. Have you ever heard of Passion Sunday? I don't know. I had never heard of that growing up. But in the past few years, maybe even a little bit longer than that, there's been kind of more of a growing movement where they don't necessarily celebrate Palm Sunday much anymore. They do more Passion Sunday. And when they talk about passion, that means they're talking about Jesus' passion. The journey from that Palm Sunday to his arrest, trial, suffering, and crucifixion. That's what we talk about with Jesus' passion. It's something we will celebrate. Well, celebrate is kind of a strange term. Something we will recognize on Thursday evening when we do that service of darkness, that tenebrae service. But it's kind of started to talk about Palm/Passion Sunday because many people don't attend those midweek worship services anymore. I remember in the church I grew up, they had a Monday, Thursday service, and they had a Good Friday service in the morning. And I don't ever remember going to the Good Friday service. I always went to the Thursday night service. But what has happened is people don't do that as much anymore. So pastors, scholars, theologians got to worry that people went right from the celebration of Palm Sunday to the celebration of Easter. kind of really didn't think much about the journey Jesus took between them. Although much of our Gospels are written in that last week of Jesus' life, a few important things happened then. So they kind of started this Palm/Passion Sunday. So I get a choice. Do I want to celebrate Palm Sunday or Passion Sunday? And I said both. So it's important for us to realize that there is some pretty significant events happening between Palm Sunday and Easter Sunday. It's not just the party of Palm Sunday right to the party of Easter. Jesus does some pretty significant things in between there, and there's some things that we don't always like to think about, especially the suffering and some of the torture that he experienced at the hands of the Romans. Even the thought of him being nailed to the cross is something we don't like to think about. Those things are kind of difficult. But I wonder, on that first Sunday when he walked into Jerusalem, and he was on that donkey, and the people were all celebrating, and they were hollering, Hosanna, and hail, the King, Jesus, Son of David. If he knew what was going to happen just a few days shorter, or a few days later, when that crowd would not shout Hosanna anymore, but instead would shout Crucify. In confirmation, we've been going through the Gospels, taking a look at the Gospels a little bit, and one of the things that we've talked about is how Jesus was both God and human at the same time. That's a mystery that I have no idea how to explain. Because if he's fully human, which we believe, then you can't know the future for sure, right? If you're human, you don't know what the future is. Now, he might have kind of realized that my actions might lead to some people being mad, could get me in some serious trouble with the Roman authorities. Just like we know, if we act a certain way, we break the laws, there's going to be consequences. So maybe he didn't know for sure what would happen, but he probably kind of knew what his actions were leading up to. But if he's fully God, then God would know the future, what was going to happen. At least I believe that. So how does that work together? Somebody explained to me once that when Jesus was born as a human in that manger, he pushed the clutch in on the God part of it. And the miracles is when he popped the clutch and let God come through a little bit. We all know what a clutch is. The manual analogy still works for driving transmissions. I don't know if that's for sure how to explain it, but I thought that was kind of a neat analogy to kind of explain how the God and human thing work together. So Jesus comes into Jerusalem, and they're shouting, Hosanna, save us. But quickly they move to crucify him. And I wonder why that is. I think I know why that is. It's because Jesus did not meet their expectations. See, they knew the Messiah would be riding in on the donkey. They had that prophet in Zechariah. And they were hoping that Jesus was coming in and was going to kick the Romans out. Was going to bring Israel back up to a great country, and he was going to lead them in revolt against the Romans and give them their sovereign country again. But Jesus doesn't do that. He comes in, he eats with his disciples, he prays, he gets arrested. And the people are thinking, this is not the Messiah that I want. So easily they move to, well, on to the next guy. When Pilate says, do you want Barabbas or do you want Jesus? Of course, they pick Barabbas because Jesus is not meeting their expectations. And I think we fall into that trap sometimes too. We expect Jesus to save us from certain things. We expect Jesus to do certain things for us that we think we need. And then when Jesus doesn't, it's easy to kind of toss him to the side or kind of just not follow or maybe not work as hard to learn more because we think, well, Jesus isn't doing what I want or Jesus isn't doing the right thing that I need. So why worry about faith and relationship so much? Kind of like the people did on that journey between that first Palm Sunday to Good Friday. That's why I think it's important to understand what Jesus did in those days in between. He didn't go right from the parade of Palm Sunday right to the parade of Easter and celebrating the resurrection. There were some struggles in between there. In fact, one of his last few words on the cross was, my God, why have you forsaken me? Where Jesus felt the pain of separation from God. That's important for us to realize and to think about this week because it teaches us a lot about our faith. Right? We live a faith, we live life, and we know that life is not one great thing to one great thing, one mountaintop experience, one mountaintop experience. We know life is hills and valleys. Some days, some weeks, some months, some years are better than others. And if we always think about the journey of the faith being one good thing to one good thing, then when life is hard, when faith is challenged, it's easy, or it's easier sometimes to lose your grip on it, to lose sight of the hope. Because we've been conditioned to think that if we believe, if we do what's right, if we follow, then things will be easy. Jesus did everything right. Never sinned, followed God's will, and he still had some pretty deep valleys. In fact, when he prays in the garden, he asked God, if you can, take this cup from me. I don't want to do this. But your will be done. Where Jesus questioning what the plan was here, what's going to happen. He said, I don't know about this, but I'll do what you want, God. Jesus, in that journey, shows us that faith is not simply from high to high. Faith is digging deeper. Faith is also when we struggle. And that is the good news, I think, when we learn about this journey that Jesus took. When the people are shouting, Hosanna, Hosanna, they're telling Jesus, save us. Save us. Now, if I were to ask you, what does Jesus save you from? You think about an answer to that question. We think a lot about salvation. And sometimes we think about salvation, which Jesus saves us from. The first thing that comes to mind is hell. Jesus saves me from hell. True. But I want us to think a little bit deeper. Because those people on Palm Sunday were not shouting, Jesus, save us from hell. They wanted Jesus to save them from the occupying Romans. Wanted Jesus to save them from those foreigners that were oppressing them and keeping them down. So when we shout Hosanna, when we think about the celebration of Palm Sunday, what do we want Jesus to save us from? If God was on the ball, what would God save you from? Can we imagine what that might be? Maybe it saved me from anger. Saved me from a sickness or an illness. Saved me from depression. Saved me from debt. From fighting in my family. From boredom. From an endless cycle of violence. Saved me from humiliation. Saved me from staring at the ceiling at 3 a.m. wondering what I'm doing with my life. Saved me from bitterness. Saved me from arrogance. Saved me from loneliness. God saved me from my fears. What would we ask God to save us from? If we have that honest conversation with Jesus, if we say, this is where I need help, this is where my life is broken, this is where I need you to help save me, that will open up a great, wonderful, deep connection. If we can come to Jesus in the valley times of our lives, in the down time of our lives, when we're struggling, and say, Lord, just save me from whatever. We build that relationship. And we take part in that hope. You see that journey that Jesus took? God didn't save him from the suffering, didn't take him up out of the situation and make all the pain go away. He had to walk through that valley. But the great news is that Easter morning, he won out. God saved him from that and restored him and lifted him back up. That is a message we need to be aware of between this Palm Sunday and next Easter. We need to think, we need to contemplate, and even thank Jesus for that journey that he took. We need to see how that gives us hope for the future. Because his journey is a message of God with us. God never left his side. Even though he shouted it, even though he may have felt it, God was still working his plan, and in the end, God's plan won out. That is the good news that Easter will show us too. That in the end, God's plan works out. We may not understand it. We may wish we didn't have to walk through so many valleys to get there. But in the end, we can have hope knowing that in the end, it does work out. It may not work out the way we thought it should. We may have questions all the way through until the end. But we can believe and we can know that God, in the end, does win. Jesus' death and then his resurrection conquers all of those valleys. Conquers all of those terrible times and gives us hope to face them and walk through them because we know God is with us. So as we continue, as we go through this week, as we're busy with work and it seems maybe like any other week, I pray we have time to stop and to think about the journey that Jesus takes. The betrayal, the arrest, the torture and suffering, and eventually the death on the cross. Think about what those things mean to you. What do you want God to save you from? And then come Sunday morning, we celebrate that resurrection. We can be reminded that God does win. That our hope is eternal. That there is always light at the end of the tunnel. And that light is the resurrection, love, and hope of God.